I know it's hard to understand why someone would stay in a relationship where they feel betrayed. I never imagined I'd find myself in this situation, but here I am. What I'm about to tell you isn't easy, but it's the truth. I thought I knew them, trusted them with everything I had, until one day. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when everything seemed perfect, and I believed that what we had would last forever. I guess I should start by telling you who I am. My name is Emily. I was once someone who believed in love, in loyalty, in trust. I thought my relationship with Alex was built on that foundation. Alex, he was everything to me. We had been together for 3 years. He was the type of person who could light up a room with just a smile. Funny, charming, confident. We shared everything, our hopes, our fears, our dreams. It felt like we were building a life together. Or at least, that's what I thought. Then there was Sarah. She was Alex's childhood friend. They'd known each other for years before we even met. She was the one person I trusted completely, almost like a sister. She had been there for both of us through thick and thin. I never once questioned her intentions. Sarah and I became close, and I thought we were a solid team, the three of us. I never imagined anything would come between us. And then, there was me. I guess I was the one who believed in the happily ever after. I was always there, supportive, encouraging, always ready to listen. I thought that was enough. I thought love was enough. But I was wrong. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when we were everything to each other. I remember the first time Alex and I met, it was like nothing else mattered. It wasn't like the fairy tale moments you see in movies, no grand gestures or fireworks. But it felt like something real, something rare. When we first spoke, it was casual, a simple conversation that turned into hours of talking. The connect I and me was instant, like we just clicked. It felt easy, natural, like we were meant to be. From there, things only grew stronger. I started spending more time with him, telling him things I had never told anyone else. He listened, really listened. And I thought that was all we needed, a connection that deep, that unspoken. I thought he understood me in a way no one else ever could. He became my confidant, the person I turned to when I had doubts, the one who always knew how to make me smile even on my worst days. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. There were moments when Alex would be distant, when he'd leave the room suddenly or seem lost in his thoughts. I didn't want to believe it, because I had no reason to. But something inside me started to whisper that maybe there was more to it than just his usual distractions. And Sarah, well, she had been growing distant too. Not in an obvious way, but I could sense the change. The playful banter between her and Alex had started to feel different. But I told myself it was nothing. They were just old friends, after all. I tried not to let my mind wander, tried to focus on the good times we had. The vacations, the late-night talks, the plans for the future. Everything seemed fine on the surface. But beneath it all, something was brewing. It was as if the cracks were so tiny that they could have easily been overlooked until the weight of them broke through all at once. One evening, I had just finished dinner, and Alex was in the other room, on his phone as usual. He'd always been glued to it, but it was never a problem before. But that night something was different. I had just finished cleaning up when I noticed his phone on the kitchen counter. It was face up. Now, I'm not one to pry, but something about that phone being so carelessly left out caught my attention. I wasn't snooping, I swear. But it felt like I had no choice. Maybe it was my gut telling me something wasn't right. So, I picked it up. I told myself I was just going to put it away. But then, the first message that caught my eye was from Sarah. They'd been texting back and forth all evening. Nothing alarming at first, just casual chatter, but the tone there was something more than casual in it. I didn't know why I kept scrolling, but I didn't know why I kept scrolling, but I did. And the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just a friendly conversation. No, it was something else entirely. Something that shouldn't have been happening. There were messages flirty, playful, and at times, more than that. The kind of words shared between people who were closer than I ever realized. I kept telling myself, this can't be real. Maybe I'm reading into this wrong, but I wasn't. They were sharing moments I wasn't a part of. They were making plans I knew nothing about. And it wasn't just one conversation. It was an ongoing pattern. I could feel my pulse quicken as I kept reading, each message more painful than the last. The more I read, the clearer it became. Alex and Sarah were closer than I had ever imagined. They were talking about things I thought were only meant for us. They'd been hiding this from me, and for how long? How could they do this? How could he do this to me? I felt like my heart was being ripped out. I couldn't stop reading, even though I wanted to. The betrayal, the lies. Everything we had built together felt like it was crumbling beneath me. But I wasn't ready to confront him yet. Not yet. I wasn't ready to lose everything in an instant. The questions flooded my mind. Should I confront them both? Should I let it go and try to fix it? Or was this the end? But I couldn't ignore it any longer. I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen what was right in front of me. And as I sat there, holding the phone, I realized something. I didn't know who Alex was anymore. The man I thought I knew, the man I trusted. That person wasn't the one I was seeing in those messages. And the worst part, I had no idea what to do next. The minutes felt like hours as I sat there, holding the phone, my fingers trembling. My thoughts were racing, too fast for me to process. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. How could this happen? How could I have been so blind, so trusting? My mind kept flashing back to the moments I had shared with Alex, the jokes, the promises, the plans we made. All those memories now felt like nothing but a lie. I had to confront him. But how? What could I even say? The more I thought about it, the more the weight of it all pressed down on me. I could already hear his excuses, the justifications, the fake apologies. He would tell me it was nothing, that it was just a few harmless messages. But I knew the truth now. And deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I tried to tell myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions, misinterpreting things. But every message I read just dug the hole deeper. There was no denying it. And Sarah, my best friend, the one I trusted like family, how could she be a part of this? It was getting late. Alex was still in the other room, unaware of what I had discovered. The house was too quiet, too still. I didn't know how to face him. I didn't know how to look him in the eye and pretend everything was okay. The silence was unbearable. And yet, I stayed still, unsure of what I was supposed to do next. And then, just as I was about to put the phone down and leave the room, I heard footsteps. Alex was coming. He walked in, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. But the moment he saw the phone in my hand, his smile faltered. I could see it in his eyes. He knew. He knew I had seen something. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice too casual, too normal. I wanted to shout, to scream at him for everything he'd done, but I just stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't find the words. My throat felt tight, like I was choking on everything I wanted to say. "Emily? What's going on?" he asked again, walking closer to me. His eyes searched mine, but there was a flicker of guilt in them that he couldn't hide. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. My mind screamed at me to ask him, to demand the truth. But the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't do it. Not yet. I couldn't let him off that easily. Instead of answering him, I tossed the phone onto the coffee table, the screen still displaying those damning messages. Alex's face dropped, his body stiffening. His eyes darted between me and the phone, and I saw the panic flash across his face. He took a step back, as if trying to regain control of the situation. But it was too late. The truth was already out in the open. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My eyes were locked on him, waiting for some kind of explanation, some kind of answer. I wasn't sure what I expected him to say, but I knew whatever came out of his mouth wouldn't be enough. Nothing would ever make this okay. Alex's eyes flickered to Sarah's name on the screen, then back to me. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Finally, he opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out at first. His words were trapped, and for the first time, I saw him struggle. He didn't have an excuse. He didn't have a reason that could possibly justify what I had just read. And then he said it, the one thing that made everything click into place. His voice was quiet, almost ashamed. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Emily. I never meant for you to find out." I could feel the sting of his words, but there was something worse about the way he said it, like he was more concerned with the fact that I found out than with what he had actually done. My heart shattered all over again. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, but it had. And there was no taking it back. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. A loud, jarring sound that cut through the tension in the room like a knife. My first thought was that maybe it was Sarah, coming to apologize or try to explain. But when I opened the door, I was met with someone else entirely. Standing on the doorstep was another woman, someone I didn't recognize. She looked at me with a mixture of pity and apprehension, her eyes darting nervously between me and Alex. And then, the words that fell from her lips made my stomach drop. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you should know the truth." My world tilted. I felt the ground shift beneath me, my vision swimming as the shock of her words hit me. The room seemed to spin, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. What did she mean? What was she talking about? Alex stepped forward, trying to hide the panic in his eyes, but it was too late. She had already spoken the words that would change everything. "Alex has been seeing me for months," the woman said, her voice shaky but clear. "I didn't know about you, Emily. I had no idea he was with you, but I thought you should know. He's been lying to both of us." The shock was overwhelming, too much to process all at once. The betrayal wasn't just with Sarah. It was worse. I was crushed, drowning in the weight of it all. How could this have happened? How could I have been so blind? I wanted to scream, to confront him right there. But I didn't. I couldn't. My heart was too broken, my thoughts too scattered. All I could do was look at him, look at the man I thought I knew, and feel the last remnants of trust slip away. He stood there, frozen. His mouth opened, but no words came out. And for the first time in all of this, I felt a cold, empty silence wash over me. I had loved him, trusted him, and now everything was gone. In that moment, I knew I had to walk away. I couldn't stay in this world of lies anymore. No matter how much it hurt, no matter how much it tore me apart, I had to let go, and that's exactly what I did. I turned away, walking out of the door, leaving the life I had known behind me. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Not with him. Not with any of them. And I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I felt free. It wasn't the kind of freedom I had expected, but it was freedom nonetheless. The truth had come out, And now, all I could do was move on. As I walked away from everything, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. I had trusted them. I had loved them. But now I was done. I would rebuild my life piece by piece. And whatever happened from here, I knew one thing for sure. I would never let anyone take my trust for granted again.